Hi, I'm Michelle Hewitt.
And I'm Amanda Lockitch, and this is Disability with Possibility.
Dancing with the flames, even when I'm down. There's a power purring loud, recharging for the night.
Hey there, Amanda. So today we have Luca.
We do, and I'm going to let you do the formal introduction of Luca, but I just want to say for our listeners, for anybody who is hasn't sort of been in the know about the Canada Disability Benefit, one of the things that crops up is that currently the Canada Disability Benefit, when it rolls out in 2025, will be a maximum of $200 a month to help lift disabled people living in deep, deep poverty out of poverty. So that is one of the topics that we talk about. But why don't you tell us about our good friend Luca?
So our good friend Luca, by the time you hear this episode, has just got back from Paris. And you're going to hear him talk about what he hopes to do while he's there, because we recorded this before he went. Luca is a breakdancer. There's many terms for that I've come to learn from Luca. He has a crew. There's all sorts of things you're going to learn. He is the most infectiously positive person you could ever hope to meet. And I really hope that you all enjoyed this episode.
Dance, dance, dance. Dancing with the flames, even when I'm down. There's
Luca, our dear friend, so good to see you after so long. So where in the world is Luca right now?
What's up, Michelle, aka the Hammer? How are you?
The whip.
The whip,
not the hammer.
The whip. Yes, that's true. I was thinking of Hammerhead Shark for some reason. But I'm currently in Montreal, or in Boucherville in my home, and I'm in between tours at this moment. But it's so good to see you and Amanda. It's been almost a year, I think, since the last time we've connected. I know we've had a couple chats on WhatsApp within this past year, but haven't seen your pretty faces in so long. So I'm happy to see you.
So good to see you. So let's just start by talking how we know each other. How did the three of us get to meet? Where did it all begin?
Tinder.
Sure. Let's start there. Great start to the podcast.
Yes. So we first met through Disability Without Poverty when we created this movement to try to end poverty for people with disabilities. We all felt that there was a huge injustice with the way the government and society was treating the benefits and the fact that a lot of people with disabilities were excluded. So together with Rabia and yourselves and a couple other amazing Canadians, we decided to create this national movement. And for a long time, I was participating in the weekly and sometimes bi-weekly meetings on how the hell are we going to get this government to push this benefit.
So as I remember, the phrase that we used was that we were building the plane and flying it at the same time.
Yes. And I think we're still flying it. We're still trying to build it and fly it.
And every now and then a wing falls off and we have to stick it back on.
Yeah.
Sometimes we have two nose cones and no seats, and
I think we have to hire fire the Boeing engineers and maybe hire some other.
Hey, that's probably it. We do have a few screws loose. Yeah.
Yeah.
So we're going to talk about this a bit as well, because you kind of took a bit of a back role so that you could concentrate on your career, which we will get back to. So as somebody who's not in that minute by minute role that Amanda and I are in with our dear friend Rabia, what does it look like to you at the moment? How do you feel it's the Disability Without Poverty journey has gone 4 years later?
You know, what I think that the journey with the movement, what was really beautiful was that I got to connect with so many amazing Canadians with disabilities, and also people just that are interested in supporting the movement. But I do have to say that on the outside factor, or what we see, unfortunately, there doesn't seem to be much change within the society for people with disabilities. So in terms of what do I see, I'd say nothing's really has changed, especially when we get the news of the only a $200 bump increase. I think that's especially, it's insulting considering the inflation rates and how the cost of living has increased tremendously just in the past 3 years. So in terms of the changes and in terms of the things that are happening, I wish that the government would do more, and I know that we as a group are a strong support system and a network, but there's only so much that we can do without the actual push from the people that are making those actual legislation changes.
Rabia and I were together in the government lockup when to get the budget news. So you can imagine what the looks on our faces were like when we read that just basically 3 hours before everybody else got it. And we had this just awful news that, okay, now we're going to have to go back out and we're going to have to move into action again. And that quiet summer that we thought we were going to have, no, we're back at it. Anyway,
I think the most, not to harp on it, but I think the most difficult aspect of all of that was the questioning of whether the government actually listened to the consultation processes that they did, that other organizations did, that we did, because it appears that none of those things that were advised actually landed in a real way, like actually help people rise up out to a poverty line, for example.
Yeah, it's pretty depressing. But anyway, there is, it's a start, it's a move forward. We're still up for the fight. But today we're here to talk about you, Luca. And as it says on my screen, Luca Lazylegz Patuelli. And every meeting that Luca ran started with a warm-up for us all. He had music on and that we would dance, because for those of you who do not know Luca, and if not, why not? Luca is an incredible dancer. And, so my first question to you, Luca, I guess we've never had this conversation before. What happened when you were 15 years old and you said to your parents, hey, here I am, this, disabled kid that uses crutches to get around. I'm going to be a dancer. How did that conversation go down at home?
At the time, my parents didn't really care, in the sense that they just thought it was just another activity. Before I started dancing, I was skateboarding on my knees. And so after having a surgery to help correct the angle in my legs, I could no longer skate on my knees. So I think that once I started breaking, my parents were actually more relieved that I wasn't in the streets, because I grew up in a suburb outside of Washington, D.C. And I would literally skateboard on my knees to the metro in my town. I'd go a little bit everywhere. And my parents were always scared that I'd get hit by a car. And so I think that they're like, oh, okay, he found this one thing where he's just in the cafeteria at school. He's staying in school longer. So yeah, let's encourage him, but then what was funny was, as I started competing and I started going, so in the breaking world, or in the hip hop world, what we call events, we call them jams. And so there were some jams that in Washington, D.C. that were in nightclubs, and some of them were in pretty rough neighborhoods of Washington, D.C. And I was under 18, so I'd have to have a parent take me to these events. And so sometimes I would take my parents to these events, and we would be in these rough neighborhoods, and this little 15-year-old kid screwing along, and then my parents they were more, I think, nervous on that end of things, because I specifically remember at one of the jams, before starting the event, they had a moment of silence for everyone that got shot, because there was a gang violence thing that happened in the neighborhood. And my parents were just these are the people that Luca is hanging out with. And but then when they saw the positive interaction, and when they saw the impact that the dance community was making, and the way that people were treating me just like everyone else, they actually accepted it, and they thought it was really cool. And it was the challenge was more when I entered into university. So we fast forward 3.5 years later, I moved to Montreal. I go to Concordia University, and I'm definitely more focused on dance than I am in school. And in my head, I'm like, I'm going to become a professional dancer. And I was getting ready to quit school. And that's where my parents became a little bit more like, well, no, I don't think that's a good decision. You should stay in school. Like, you can still dance, but you got to do a bit of both, you know? And so I was actually able to talk to my university, and we went from a full-time schedule to a part-time schedule. And through that, I was able to balance my dance career and my school, my academic career. And it took me about 9 years to graduate, but I graduated with a degree in marketing and a Bachelor of Business. And throughout that academic career, I was actually starting to tour. And so there were certain semesters where I literally would be I'd be in class, I'd go straight to the airport, take a plane, do a show that day, and then take a red eye back, and then literally go back to class. And that happened to me for a couple of years while I was touring and schooling.
So, this podcast is Disability with Possibility. And of course, I have to say, Luca, that, when we think about people to talk to, when that comes in mind, you are up there on the top of my list of people that live their life with possibility. And that, what an example, because, most people are just thinking about getting through the school day and getting their assignments done. And so how does that happen that you're on tour? I mean, you're being you like have an agent. You're being like, how does this happen that that this kid is now this breakdancing phenomenon?
So to be honest, I do currently have an agent now, but I've been self-represented for a large portion of my career, and the way it worked was that I became popular before YouTube. So in the sense that while viral videos started coming out and YouTube's had just started becoming a platform, my videos were being shared on Dailymotion, College Humor, and all of these other sites that were your YouTube today. And so at the time, the content wasn't that high. And so I had this brand new video that came out, and it was me dancing all in different areas around Montreal. And that video picked up and it blew up. And I ended up getting phone calls from Korean TV stations, from the BBC in the UK, from Italian television stations, from the US, and from all across Canada. And at the time, the NBC Today show actually picked it up, and they had me they did a whole segment on me, and they brought my whole family out to New York, and we did a live performance on the NBC Today show. And that's how things kind of started snowballing for me as a motivational speaker and as a professional dancer. And through that, I started booking stuff and just managing that on top of the school. And then the school saw that because I was studying business, they were supporting me because they're like, okay, well, you're making a career out of this, and this will be good for you. And if you do become famous, it'll be good for the school later on too. So it kind of was like a win-win for a situation.
Yeah, well, I mean, what better business model is that to have this guy who's supporting himself as a dancer, right? As one, but then a disabled dancer too. So when not everybody can see this, but I can see your shirt. You have your able-bodied shirt on, which is, excuse me, my English, like not getting down with the terminologies, but that's your crew, that's your dance, that's your troupe, your team, your peeps, your...
Yeah, so able-bodied is my international dance crew. So in the breaking world, it's very common to create something called super crews. So typically when you're dancing, you're usually with a group of friends. Now breaking has become so popular that people can actually take classes and they go to dance studios for it. But back when I was starting, and even prior to that, usually you were just practicing with other groups of friends that were like at school, like in the cafeteria or just in the corner of a hallway or like behind a parking lot. And you were just practicing, and those groups of friends became your crew. But then once you start competing, you start creating something called super crews or all-star teams, where you take the best dancers of different crews and you form like one super team. So it'd be like the all-star team or like the dream team or something. And so able-bodied is actually an all-star crew comprised of some of the world's best dancers that all have completely different disabilities. And currently we are 8 dancers that represent 7 different countries. I'm the only dancer that represents Canada, but we have a dancer who's hearing impaired. His name is Cujo. He represents the US. We have 3 dancers from South America, so 2 dancers that live in Brazil. We have Samuca, who's an amputee, and we have Perninha, who's a dancer who has a malformation in one of his legs, who's also from Brazil. And then we have Chicho, who's from Chile, who has a major malformation in both of his legs. So he's kind of looks like a little person, but his upper body is extremely strong. We have a dancer from South Korea who was paralyzed. He was actually a professional dancer who was able-bodied and then went into a move and broke his neck and became completely paralyzed. His name is Crops, and he relearned to walk, and now he DJs. We have a dancer from France named Junior who is a polio survivor. And then we have a dancer from Holland who is born with many malformations all over his body. And each of these dancers are all considered to be some of the world's best b-boys who all happen to have different disabilities. So we compete on the international circuit against other dancers who don't have disabilities. But when we come together, we form this super crew and we perform. We have an hour-long theater show that we tour with, but we also compete against the whole world. And as a crew, we've done a lot of different dance battles where we've either won the events or we've placed in the top 4 against some of the best dancers in the world.
That's awesome. I have a question. Yeah. So do you track all the countries that you have been to, that you've toured to, and do you have a bucket list of countries that you would like to get to?
Yeah. So I've currently traveled to 41 countries, and the bucket list of countries that I haven't been to yet, and they're still on the top of my list, is Morocco, Australia, and Brazil. And Morocco is actually because my father was born in Morocco, so I feel that there's a personal connection for me with Morocco. And so there's that part of me that wants to go more on a personal aspect rather than the career aspect. But I'm kind of waiting for that invitation just in case. Brazil, because both Samuca and Perninha live in Brazil, and I want to feel what they live in that aspect of things. And also, I have a dream of walking up the big, what's the name of in Rio de Janeiro, there's that big statue with Jesus on top. I can't remember the name right now off the top of my head, but if and when
something like the Statue of the Redeemer or something like that, isn't it? Or something.
Yeah.
Anyway,
I know the Latin term, but it's on the tip of my tongue. It'll come to me like in the middle of the interview. But I want to walk up that, and then Australia, just because it looks really cool. Like I've heard everyone that's gone to Australia just doesn't want to come back. So,
and has the most poisonous creatures on the planet there, right? The 10 most deadly creatures. You know, that's
it's
something
crazy.
That makes me feel.
I was just in New Zealand though, and in New Zealand they advertise. They said, New Zealand, the country with no poisonous animals. Like they actually advertise that, and like they're very proud to be like the clean Australia.
Yeah, not those from over there.
Yeah.
We're the good ones. So, you know, disabled people together, we can talk about this. So there's no pity party here going on, right? As you're saying, you guys are competing as dancers first and foremost, and you happen to be disabled, right? So you are competing at a level with others. So did I read somewhere, or am I imagining this, that breakdancing they were trying to get it in the Olympics?
Yeah, it's actually going to be happening in the Olympics for Paris 2024. And
so what happens then with you guys if, for example, right, you know, do you get to be in Like the regular Olympics?
Yeah, so I'm actually a certified judge. So I've passed all my certifications.
Wow.
And so I've judged some of the qualifiers to help the dancers qualify to go into the Olympics. And at this moment, I'm the only person with a physical disability that has that certification. And the two dancers that in our crew that would actually have the ability to be part of a team. So we've got three dancers. Perninha and Samuca, both from Brazil, and then Ridu from Holland. The three of them are probably our highest level dancers, and they technically would have that ability to be part of Team Brazil or Team Holland. However, Samuca currently took a dance contract where he's living in France, and so he's currently touring, so he wasn't eligible to be part of Team Brazil. And Perninha is also working as well. So when the auditions for Team Brazil came out, he ended up missing it. And then Ridu, as well as he has his own touring company right now that he's doing his own project. However, those three dancers, if they actually put their efforts into it and auditioned, or it's not an audition because you have to qualify, but if they qualified for Team Holland, they would actually be able to represent in the Olympics. And breaking would be the only sport or culture or activity,
However you want to, yeah.
It's a debatable thing. For the Olympics, we'll call it a sport. But breaking would be the only sport that would actually be open to have dancers with disabilities competing against able-bodied dancers.
And so you say you're a judge, and so again, you're a judge of all dancers, right?
Yeah.
Disabled or not.
Exactly.
Wow.
So there's actually no category for Paralympics for like breaking. Like ill-abilities, all the members in ill-abilities, we're 8. There's probably 5 more dancers with disabilities around the world that are known and that are high level. There's probably more dancers, we just don't know them. But off the top of my head, I can think of only 5 other dancers. So for it to be a Paralympic event, there's not enough.
Not enough of you.
Yeah, exactly. But to be honest, we wouldn't want that. I'm not trying to like knock out the Paralympics, but we would want something that would really be able to unite everyone, you know? So why not make it into just an event?
So, well, yeah, this is what we're talking about, disability with possibility. And, here's this, as you say, you went from, skating on your knees, your parents being worried that you're going to get run over, to nightclubs where we, honor those who were shot, to an Olympic sport on the level with everybody else, where you are now a judge. What a journey. What an absolute journey. Do you ever look back and think about that 15-year-old kid and think what you would think now?
Yes and no, in the sense that there's too much going on to look back. But in my moments of like down, because when you're living the life of an artist, and I'm sure that many artists that are listening can relate to your life being seasonal, or you have extremely busy months and like you don't think about anything else besides what's in front of you and what's coming at you. And then you have those months where nothing's happening, and then you start feeling doubt in yourself because you're like, oh, people no longer want me, or what's going on with me. I need to start producing more to make sure that I can continue to stay busy. And you're kind of always living on this idea of like that starving artist type of lifestyle of just putting yourself out there constantly to just do. And so I think that for me to always look back, then I would end up like questioning myself. So what I try not to do is to not look back. And I just try to keep on moving forward as much as possible.
Okay, and I'm going to ask you a question that takes you right back. Apologies. But
No
you always... I just love talking to you because you're always just this buoyant. And I mean, we all have ups and downs, but you're always just such a buoyant guy. And I'm wondering whether that is just like innately your personality, or if that was something that you actively worked at to rid yourself of those doubts and all of that all those terrible things that we can tell ourselves, right? That we're not good enough, that we're all of it, right?
Yeah. I mean, I'm not gonna lie to you. Like, I have a lot of doubt and I have a lot of insecurities and a lot of moments. I'd say growing up in my teen years, one of my biggest insecurities was getting a girl. At the age in your teens where all of your friends are starting to get girlfriends, and I'm the one person who's not. And then you start questioning everything and you start thinking that it's because of your disability, or it's because of my big nose, or it's because of the acne. And so you start like putting on all of these things in your head and you start like really believing it to a certain extent. What's helped me overcome a lot of that is dancing, to be honest. And I'm not preaching dance and saying everyone needs to dance, because the reality is we all just need to find that one passion that can distract us from our self-doubts. And those are the things that will help us overcome those moments of insecurities. Because every time I've gone into a dark place, and I can tell you recently, I'll tell you two specific occasions in my most recent years. First time was in 2015 when Aura, my first daughter, was born. I was juggling the act of being a father and also trying to maintain my career. So I never took time off to actually be a parent, in the sense that I was running a business. 5 days after Aura was born, I flew to South Korea to do a show. Then I had a dance program where we had 130 students and we were just running 32 classes, and we had like a lot going on within that 1 year. And so I'd come home exhausted, and then physically I wasn't able to hold Aura the average way you would. Like if I'm sitting down, I can hold a baby, no problem. But to be able to walk with the baby when they're crying, you want to bounce with them and all of that. And I couldn't do any of that. We bought a special stool. We bought like that backpack, the baby Bjorn. We tried all of these different things to try to make it work. And like Aura wasn't having it with me. And so I was blaming myself and I was blaming my disability. And then I got into a really dark place, and I had forced myself to perform in public places, but internally in my head, I was hating everything about me. And I was just not knowing what was going on. Part of it was this guilt of, I'm not a good father. Part of it is, it's my disability. It's stopping me. And because of that, I'm getting injured with my dancing. And so I'm forcing myself to dance on these injuries, and I'm hating dancing because I don't feel good. But yet it's my only job at the moment, right? And so at the time I was relying on it to be able to pay the bills. And what really helped me get out of that rut was Melissa, my partner. She reminded me that my whole life I adapted myself, that parenting should be no different, that it's okay if I can't hold Aura the same way, you'll just figure it out and do it your own way. And that actually opened me up. And after I heard that, I actually got myself a wheelchair. My whole life I had tried to avoid using a wheelchair. Part of it was pride, part of it was fear. And finally, when I figured out that I could adapt myself, I got myself a wheelchair, and I started carrying I started carrying Aura on my lap on the wheelchair, and I was able to transfer her. I could take her to the park, and I could do ordinary things, but in a completely different way. And it was my way. And that helped me get out of it. And then the other thing that helped me get out of it was dancing for fun. So my crewmate Redo, he knew that I was in this really dark place in my life. And so he actually flew himself from Holland, came to Montreal, and spent 2 weeks with me. And he reminded me about the fun that dancing is. And we literally just practiced. And I started dancing again and having fun with it, and not feeling like I had to perform for a public, but perform for myself. And that gave me that ability to, when I went back to do shows and when I had to compete, I did it for myself, and that changed my mindset, and that allowed me to feel good about myself. So to answer your question, Amanda, is that generally I am super happy and positive and all of that, but I do have a lot of dark moments. And in those dark moments, I just need to get that one switch to remind me to get out of that rut. And when I get out of it, it's through dancing and allowing myself to express myself.
Yeah, the power of mindset, right, is everything.
I think that as well, as you say, Melissa told you it's okay. And I think, at any time, I know myself as, a disabled person, when you feel that you've got to do something 110%, right? Because you kind of feel that you got to make up for something. That's for somebody, because you just can't see it yourself at that time. For somebody to say to you, it's okay, is really powerful.
Can you talk to us about your motivational speaking as well as your another career in addition to your dance?
Yeah, so motivational speaking, or I call it motivational entertainment, because within my motivational speaking, I always throw in a dance element, and I always perform and I engage the audiences as well too. But essentially, I offer an all ages, all abilities motivational speech where I share the message: no excuses, no limits. And in this message, what I really mean by no excuses, no limits is the idea that anything is possible as long as we don't create excuses along the way. The minute that we tell ourselves that we can't do something without even trying first, that's where we're creating that limitation and that barrier. But if we give things a try our best, and most importantly, take that time to learn to do things our own way, that's really where there are no limits. And so I understand when I say no limits, it can sound a little bit triggering to some people because they're like, well, no, there really are limitations. And I totally understand that and I totally respect it. The only thing that I could say is that if we take that time to accept to do the things differently, then that's really where there are no limits. And I give the example of one of my students who DJs. He doesn't have the ability to move his arms or his legs. He's born with the same condition I do, but for him, it affects him in his arms and his legs. And both of his arms are pretty much stuck to his body. And he does everything with his chin. So he drives his wheelchair with his chin. He has a pen to use his computer and through his mouth. And his dancer name was Crazy Mouth. And he really wanted to learn how to DJ. So we actually set up a table and we taught him how to scratch using his chin. And the average person would see him and they'd say, there's no way that you could DJ because, but that idea is that if you do have a little bit of assistance and you're open enough to learn to do it differently, then that's where we recognize that there are no limits to what you can accomplish. Because at the end of the day, Crazy Mouth was the one that chose the music. He's the one that mixed it. And he's the one that was scratching in the moments to scratch. We just taught him how to do it. And we taught him how to do it his way.
I think that's so important. And I think that, I often talk to people about independence and, in that same place of it's not necessarily like physically doing everything yourself. It's having it set up so that you get to make all the decisions, right? That it sits with you, that it's you're still that person that's in control of everything. And I think, you find the solution, and that's how you find this possibility that we're here to talk about. So you talked to us about Aura. Why not talk to us about Luna?
Luna is our newest member of the family. She's currently 4 years old. And she's a fireball in the sense, and she can go from 0 to 100 in like you'll just meet her, and she's super, super cute. But she knows it, and it's dangerous. She's actually born with the same condition I was. So it's Arthrogryposis. I don't think I mentioned what disability I have. So the disability I have is called Arthrogryposis. It's a neuromuscular disorder. And in Luna's case, it actually affects her more in one leg than the other. So currently she has one long leg brace and one short leg brace. And she uses crutches, a walker, and a wheelchair to get around on a daily basis. However, for the past 2 months, she's pretty much been on the crutches almost all day, like every day, which has been really, really cool to see that transition as when we're walking in the street, it's like she's the smaller version of me, and it's really cool.
So what are you going to do when she's, skating down the street on her knees and taking you off to nightclubs to do stuff? How's Dad going to cope with that?
So, what's interesting is that I'm with Luna, I'm so much more passive in the sense of like when she screams or like claims she's like falls down and it's like, I'm more like, just get up. But when Aura, I'm just like, like, so like with my first daughter, I'm super like bubble wrap. Like I worry about her more than I worry about my younger daughter. Partially maybe because with Luna, I think I know she has that strength to be like, okay, I got this. I got to prove myself. Because Luna's like very hard-headed. And so she's, as a 4-year-old right now, I'm like, hey, can you do this? And she'll say no. And then I remind her, I was like, you know what? It's true. You can't do that. And she'll look at me, she's like, I can do it. You know what I mean? Like, so she always wants to be challenged. With Aura, I have to be a little bit more careful in how I ask her. And so I think that I'm more sensitive to that. And in terms of just like, she's your first daughter. She was my first daughter. So she's definitely daddy's girl on that end of things. But with Luna, so when you're asking about how am I going to feel, I think with Luna, I'll be like, cool, no problem. With Aura, I'll be like, nope, you're not coming out. So, yeah.
So what's coming up next then?
Next, so this summer, able-bodies will officially be performing for the Paralympic opening ceremonies. And I'm super excited about that. I had the honor of doing the Paralympic opening ceremonies in Vancouver in 2010. And so now to be able to include the crew to be a part of that celebration, it's going to be really special because the whole crew is going to be there. And yeah, I'm just super excited about it. I'm still on standby if I'm going to be involved with the Olympics and the breaking events. I can just let you know that it's very last minute and disorganized. But if they are to choose a Canadian representative for a judge, then I'm one of 3 judges that they can choose. And so let's cross fingers that they end up choosing me. But also, I don't know if I want to have that pressure of choosing the first Olympic medalist in breaking. It's such everyone that's on the roster, everyone that's competing deserves it, and they're all amazing dancers.
And they're all people that you helped or that you judged in the preliminaries to get there, right?
Yeah. So I've judged competitions in Japan, in Belgium, in Montreal, and those events were events that the dancer would qualify with certain point standards. And through those events, that would determine if they made the top 16 for the Olympics.
Yeah, I can see where it would be both, a huge pride to be a judge in the first medals given out for your, as you say, your craft, your art, your culture, your now sport, as it's, but at the same time, that pressure when you've watched these people develop as dancers over the years and so on, it's a tough road ahead.
Yeah.
What do you say to the 15-year-old dancer that's starting out now and, can potentially be an Olympic athlete in
to that 15-year-old dancer, I just say, keep on doing what you're doing. Like, enjoy it, enjoy the moment. And
remember to have fun.
That's the most important thing, and I think that obviously when it becomes your business, there's a lot of pressure, but if you're not having fun, then why do it, So
yeah, you may as well be working in a button factory and doing that, be your business. Whereas if you're gonna be an artist, you're gonna be a dancer, you gotta have fun, hey?
Yes, that's the most important.
I have to say, Luca, you have one of the most infectious laughs I have ever heard. There we go. Whenever I think of you, and that's that bright, shining star that you are. You are that, that sense of possibility that shines through you, and And I will be definitely looking out for all those breakdancers in the Olympics, knowing that whether you're there judging or not, that you've touched on all of those careers in some way, because I know that's who you are. And I know that your presence shines over us still. When even the things that I think about that you were involved with at DWP, like the logos and the everything, but more than that core identity that started us off with our arts program, that Amanda was such a fundamental part in bringing everybody together and making sure that we showed disabled people as the multifaceted, talented people that they are. So I want to take the moment to thank you because I don't think this journey would have been like half as exciting, illuminating, or even, as we started off by saying, we're not exactly where we'd hoped to be, but hey, we have a law, we have it actually exists. And when we all started this journey, there was a pipe dream. So I want to thank you, for everything that you've done for people that don't even know you, and the amount they don't even know what you've done for them. So,
wow. Michelle, thank you so much. Yeah,
no, it means a lot you mean a lot to me.
Likewise.
What Michelle said.
No,
you have to know that Amanda said that she's here to be my sidekick, and it's like, no, sweetheart, you get out there and you get closer to that microphone and you start speaking, because my brain go kaflooey, and who knows what's going to come out of it.
Yeah, no, I also, and just that, we had a conversation a little while ago about parenting and how we want to parent and how we were parented. And I think that's just that vision of you truly can do anything as long as you accept and give yourself space to do it in your own way, in your own time, and really believe that you can do what you want to do in this world. And I think that's you bring that in spades.
Thank you so much. I just want to say thank you both, and also to the whole WD family. Like, you guys have been incredible leaders and mentors. And I think, Michelle, you said it right, that even though we didn't get what we asked for throughout the process, we've built a huge family. We have this bill that is locked in, so they're stuck with us on that end of things, right? And I think that's only going to just show that we can keep on adding on. And I think that also this movement is growing, because I do hear about it, not just within our network, but through other people talking about it. And so I think that we'll be continuing to grow and share the message of disability without poverty, but most importantly, disability with possibilities.
One of my favorite things, there's so many things to love about Luca, but one of my favorite things about Luca is he has this sort of eternal positivity, and it is not toxic positivity. It is not smush everything down and just be positive. It is a genuine love of life. It's a genuine, we can make things happen attitude. And I just admire that so much.
Yeah, and it's built on a firm foundation of how life should be. It's not just a sort of relentless positivity with no content to it, right? It's built out of how he wanted to live his life. I can only imagine what it was like for his parents going into those nightclubs with him, with all kinds of danger around them. That probably Luca didn't even see, because as a teenager, he was just focused on the dance, right? And they were the ones that were thinking, where has my teenage son brought us to, and what are we doing?
Yeah, he's also a motivational speaker, and if you have not come across him, his Instagram account is in our show notes. Go and check him out. He often posts some reels with his crew, and they're all just remarkable breakers. And
some amazing creative videos with his dance that he has made as well, aside from just the sort of competitive or the sort of, with his crew. But there's some, he just does so much neat stuff.
If you like this episode, you're going to love the next one, where we have the only non-dancing member of his crew, a wonderful woman named Claire Lee. If you would like to make comments or suggestions,
but only nice ones, of course,
please reach out to us at hello@disabilitywithoutpoverty.ca. If you want to talk to either Michelle or Amanda specifically, it's just our individual names, Amanda at disabilitywithoutpoverty.ca or Michelle at disabilitywithoutpoverty.ca.
And to find more about what this whole Disability Without Poverty shebang is about, our website is disabilitywithoutpoverty.ca.
Dancing with the flames.
Disability with Possibility is made possible by many, many people. However, a few key people that we would like to thank are Christina Sheldon for her fabulous theme song, producer Dave Shumka with Kelly and Kelly, and all the funders and partners who help us do what we do.